Hey peeps, we got a lot to talk about today, and I have 45-ish minutes. So, first of all, deep breath in. We are going to talk about the full moon today. So deep breath in and hold at the top. And let it flow out. Down into your soles of your feet, down into the ground, down into the earth, and rest there in a very grounded state. So welcome. We're going to talk about full moon. I'm going to type it in here. I don't know, full moon circle, I guess is what people call this nowadays. Okay. We're going to pin that bad boy. All right, that way everybody knows if they come on late. So I've got the chart in front of me here on my computer. I wish there was a way to slightly make this a little more straight on, but I don't think that's going to happen. Anywho, we've got some big stuff going on today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to tell you what you've already heard, more than likely, if you are a follower of astrology, and then I'm going to tell you what you haven't heard, because so only I can tell you what you haven't heard. From my perspective, anyway. All right, so we've got the sun. The sun is in Cancer. Automatically, when the moon is opposed in the sky, you get a full moon. And so that means the opposite of Cancer is Capricorn. So we've got the moon in Capricorn, the sun in Cancer. And if you have a chart based on the exact time and in your location when the moon is full, you'll see that the midheaven is also Cancer. Let me just make sure I got that right. Midheaven, yes, 2 degrees Cancer. So what's going on here is, if you know anything about the midheaven, that's the point directly above in the sky when the thing is happening. That is automatically, in most cases, the 10th house. Capricorn rules the 10th house. So we've got an opposed situation happening. We've got the sun in Cancer in the 10th house, which is Capricorn. And then we have the moon in Capricorn in the 4th house, which is Cancer. So we have this entire thing vibing on a very electric level. We've got Chiron, who is also my personal fave, square these two things. He's directly in the middle. So he's causing some other ruckuses happening. Sometimes ruckus, sometimes not, depending on, to me, my opinion, how much shadow work you've done. So if you're new to shadow work, you may be super emotional today. You may have a lot of old stuff happening that's coming up from your personal experiences, maybe in childhood, or who you are as a person. Maybe you're feeling you don't fit in, or you haven't fit in your life. Or this is awakening you to the fact that you may be a healer via all of this hard work you've put into it. So usually when I read a chart, I let my guides show me where they want me to talk about first. I've got 40 minutes, and let's just see what happens here. So, all right, we're going straight for the big stuff. So we'll just start with the big stuff. How can I show you? I wonder if I can turn this around and show you real quick. Hang with me. There's my light. All right, here's the chart. Get a good look at that. Let me pull this up. All right, here's the big ticket thing I want to talk about today. First, I'll show you. Here's the sun in Cancer. Here's Mercury right next to him. There's Lilith. There's the midheaven. This is important. They're very closely tied here. Here's where Chiron is, where I was mentioning before. Jupiter is also hanging out here. Not too many people are discussing that, but he's around. It's cool. He's there. He's square. Squares are a little bit more grittier energy, let's say. And then here we go. Here's what I was talking about. We've got Cancer, the moon and Pluto conjunct in Capricorn in the 4th house. So you can see this big red line that goes straight across. This is an opposition. That means that's a full moon. So here's the big thing though. If you can see, there's a green dotted line here and a green dotted line here. Those are the two we're going to focus on. Okay. Is this working out? Yep. And then you have this solid blue line connecting the two. This is what's called a yod. This is what you hear me talk about all the time. So this yod is pointing at the sun conjunct Mercury. We have Saturn on one end down here, and look who's playing today, Mary Magdalene. So this is what you haven't heard today. A yod involving Mary Magdalene in the full moon situation in Cancer, where all the mothering emotions and nurturing come to play. So when you have a yod pointing at the sun, a yod basically means the finger of God. God is pointing in that direction going, hey, this is pretty important. Also creating directly opposed this yod is the moon. Lightening up that midpoint between Saturn and Magdalene. So what does this mean? All the mumbo jumbo. This is telling me with the sun in Cancer, we've got a lot of ancestral stuff happening here. Hopefully, if you're here and you're listening, you are awakening to your ancestry. You're awakening to the Magdalene mysteries. You're awakening to your part in the priestess procession, the resurgence. This is what this yod is for only people who are paying attention. So the way yods work, it's a push-pull energy. It's not a flowy one. It's not necessarily a hard one, but it's one you have to learn how to deal with. One you have to learn how to use the energies so it doesn't use you. So when we can get right with our part in who we are as a Magdalene ourselves from past lives, that we have had the opportunities taken from us to become this person. Then we can get the benefits. The third planet here is Saturn. We can get the benefits of Saturn, which is the 10th house, which is Capricorn, which is where the moon is. Are you seeing the threads being woven here? If you want to benefit from the full moon conjunct Pluto in Capricorn, we've got to get right with who we are as a Magdalene. This is heavy. This isn't like, yay, oh my God, we're just going to be like priestesses forever. No, maybe, but no, this is big deal ticket energy. This is when we realize that our past lives are dictating our present one. And that if we have not had the opportunity in a past life to express who we are as a soul, we are going to have a hard time feeling like things flow and are magnetic in this life. Because remember, Magdalene and magnet start with the same 3 letters. Greatness. M-A-G is greatness. So it's a deer moon. Let's talk about that. It's a full buck moon today. What does that have to do with everything? So anytime a deer is mentioned, it is usually in spiritual context, if we're talking about symbolism. And it's the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. It's the devotion to that. And I can pick out a couple of signs, usually, there's a couple here, who express devotion on a level. And one of those is Capricorn. It's like chef's kiss of devotion. In esoteric astrology, Capricorn is one of the most spiritual signs. But if you're talking about traditional astrology, you're only going to hear that it's about hard work, it's about money, it's about people who don't have a lot of emotions and they're kind of cold. They're kind of just like work, 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 work. There's a reason for that, because the work is actually service. There is really no other more spiritual activity you can do than to serve. So all of this is related, especially because I keep wanting to call it the sun, but the moon is in Capricorn, right in the middle of this whole yod situation. So bucks, spiritual enlightenment, devotion, that is the essence of Capricorn, because what Capricorn on an esoteric level wants to do, first and foremost, is to climb. They want to climb. Climbing mountains. The higher you get, the more closer to God you are. But here's the thing about Capricorns, is they don't want to climb for climbing's sake, and they don't typically want to climb just for themselves. At first, it is about themselves. They get to the first part of the mountain, they're doing that for them. They get to the second part of the mountain and they're starting to realize how good it feels to do things for other people in service. They get to that third part of the mountain, they get as high as you can possibly go, and they're up on their pedestal and they look around and they see the light. They're up so high. They see the light. And what the light is urging them to do is to listen. And they hear the cries of humanity down below, needing help. And what does the Capricorn do? They spin around on their pedestal and they go back down the mountain with all of the education, all of the wins, all of the wisdom and knowledge to help bring more people up to the first, second, and third parts of the mountain. That is a super service-oriented sign. It gets a bad rep because on a very human level, that looks like all they do is want to climb. All they want to do is work. But when they have reached the dimension of Capricorn, that is one of the highest vibrational dimensions of Capricorn, they are serving non-stop. And they are climbing hard mountains to do it. And so when we get right in terms of this Magdalene Yod, when we get right with our past, we get right with admitting to ourselves that's what we're here for, instead of being caught in fear that somebody might think we're weird, or caught in some sort of fear that we're going to fail, or we're going to do it wrong, or we don't know what we're doing. Until we can start to accept 100% that you came into this life to have spiritual service and to be a Magdalene, which is basically, in short, a watchkeeper of the flock, a teacher, a nurturer, someone who is a spiritual leader who goes first. Until you start to accept that that's what you're here for, you're never going to get the benefits that come with being a high dimensional Capricorn. And so the sun's involved here now. We've got to talk about the sun. The sun is in Cancer, so that is ancestral stuff, right? Cancer is ancestry. It's also nurturing and home life. It's home life because your ancestry starts in home. It starts with your parents, right? That's where you start your ancestry work, is like, who were my parents? Who were my parents' parents? Who were their parents? And on an esoteric level, Cancer is also high service. Their service is to build safety for other people. Yes, for themselves. This is the same thing I'm talking about dimensionally, right? Traditionally, it's going to look like they're trying to be safe for themselves until tons of shadow work is done. all they're going to really care about. Am I building safety for myself? You grow through the dimensions. Towards the end of this dimension, the highest vibrational Cancer is one who is building a house of light for other people to feel safe. Let that sink in for a minute. To them, they're not building a room. They're building many rooms for many people, for many situations in life. So they're building, just like a Capricorn will build by working hard. Crabs, Cancers, they build like this, right? They build laterally, build out, they build homes. Capricorns build up. This is why they are balancing each other. They're opposites on the wheel, right? So the theme for Cancer is building the foundations of life through the warmth of nurturing love. So how are we going to apply this to our yod now? This is where the yod's pointing. It's pointing toward nurturing love. So when we become aware of our Magdalene service-oriented souls, we reap the benefits of the sun in Cancer. So we're working together with building on a lateral level. And that is also involved with Mercury. Mercury is right there. So there's going to be maybe today a lot of insights, realizations. And with Chiron square, this aspect here, we are going to have realizations about our past that are going to help us accept our present, accept what our plan was for this life. Then, so we can reap the benefits of everything Capricorn. Which, if it's Capricorn, it's usually about your fame, fortune, and what you're known for. That's the 10th house. That's where the sun is right now. So all this is working together, with Chiron included, for you to have these realizations. So if you are someone who hasn't yet dove deep into shadow work, some of these realizations might feel unstabilizing, destabilizing. They might be like, what am I supposed to do now? What's my life gonna look like? Why am I feeling everything from my childhood? Why is shit about my mom coming up today? That could also be another thing. What am I supposed to do within my ancestral trauma? That is all possibilities of what could happen today for you. I mean, there could be way more possibilities as well. I'm only one astrologer. But for someone who has done some shadow work, if you've done Alchemize Your Vibe with me, if you've done it on your own, you have another therapist or coach that you work with, you may start to feel today that your purpose is starting to shine through. But what that's going to require for you is diligence, which a lot of us don't have or don't want to have because we've swung too far into the feminine parts of ourselves, where we sit and wait for life to happen to us because we're just in receiving mode, and you've probably worked way too hard in your life already, and that was damaging. So what this is encouraging us to do is find the middle, where we can have push energy, where we create, because creating is a yang energy after you received the thought or idea, which is the yin energy. So there isn't sit and wait. This is sit and wait for this realization and start to accept it and be forgiving of yourself for not doing it yet and surrender to it. Do all that feminine stuff. That's important. But you can't just surrender to it and wait for it to show up on your doorstep. You need to enact your high-level Capricorn service to make it work. So that's your diligence and your discipline and your willingness to not stop climbing, because you're not climbing for you. You're climbing so that you can understand what the light is and what it looks like, so that you can give it to other people. That's the heart of the Capricorn. And so speaking of hearts, that's also, this is our fourth chakra, right? No matter which way you count it. This is the heart of where the sun is today. It's in Cancer. I mean, the sun's been in Cancer, but this is where it is right now. It's our heart. So this moon is opposed it. It's unlocking the heart. When you unlock the heart, you unlock the mysteries of what you came here to do. Unlocking the heart has a lot to do with all the feminine things I just mentioned. So surrender, acceptance, forgiveness. All those things are happening in here. Letting go of your grief, also happening in here. That's why grief is stored in the lungs, because it's in this area of the body. And so one more interesting point about this is directly across from the Magdalene point here is Venus. Shit you not. It's Venus. Venus is the ruling planet of the Magdalenes. She is where we come from. She is where we get our energy from as a Magdalene. She's where we get our inspiration and our force for driving love. It's all Venus. So she's giving that energy today. Venus is in Gemini, Magdalene's in Sagittarius, and they're directly opposed to each other. Oddly enough, conjunct my North and South node. So today and this week, I'm also getting this. This isn't just me talking about this. This is for me too. Discipline and dedication is how you get to the Magdalene point, how you open your heart in Cancer, how you activate your purpose. Chiron, square, all of these things. Since when you have an opposed and something is square, it's squaring both of those things. So on a slower vibration, I don't like low and high, but slower vibration, Chiron opposed the sun and Chiron opposed the moon. It's going to give you a hard emotional time a little bit, but he also may come with gifts like intuition, like your psychicness popping off from squaring Mercury, life purpose, illuminated. Just because it's square doesn't mean it's hard per se, but maybe something hard happens that lights you up in that way. This is what I'm going to call the legacy yod. This is a yod of legacy. Since we've got everything happening in Cancer, we've got Magdalene, which is pretty much getting right with your legacy. If you were here and you're watching this, it is time to start accepting your legacy, which is, I came here to be a spiritual guide for other people, a teacher for other people, a way shower, a sister. And it's a big day. This is a big deal. So maybe around the time of the full moon tomorrow, like for me, it's going to be at 11:38 a.m. If you're in Europe, it's going to be 8 hours later. So what is that? 7? Sit with it. Sit and see if you can enact your yin energy, your divine feminine energy. Call on the moon Ask her in the name of all priestesses that have ever served her to show you the light. And then accept it. And then act on it. Saturn is heavily involved in this, the energy of Saturn. So that means Capricorn and the 10th house, which is where the sun is. And Saturn himself inside of this yod. Saturn's also in Aquarius. Aquarius loves to be the bridge between ancient and future. They love to take the wisdom and the knowledge of the old and bring it into the new. They love to go into the past to get to the future. That's literally what this moon's about, is being right with your lineage, your spiritual lineage and your genetic lineage. So go be the bridge. Go ask the moon, in the name of all priestesses, how can I be the bridge? What is my part in this? What is my role? How can I build the foundations of life through the warmth of nurturing love? How can I build a lighted house where we all can dwell? That's Cancer. Capricorn would be lost in the light of divine, supernatural, yet on that light I turn my back. That's strong words. In order to see the light and be strong enough to turn around and not stay there selfishly, but turn around and go back to all the people who need your divine service. This is no joke. This isn't shit I make up. This is what this chart's life purpose is telling me today. So we're setting up the foundations in Cancer for others to thrive, for us to thrive first and then others to thrive. And then how do we use that as contribution? That's the second key here. Both Aquarius and Capricorn are heavy in the contribution. Humanitarianism, giving what you can in the way that you can. That's Aquarius. Doing your best and giving for the betterment of humanity. Capricorn is willing to put in the legwork, literally. And that brings me back, my final thing, to the buck moon. In Psalms 18:33, the quote is, "He makes my feet like those of deer and gave me sure footing on high places." He makes my feet like those of a deer and gives me sure footing on high places. I don't know, friends. If that ain't Capricorn, I don't know what is. Yes, technically it is a goat mermaid. A goat mermaid that climbs the mountain. But goat and deer, kind of the same thing a little bit in this essence anyway. So just think about that. Deer is a buck moon. Of course, the buck moon is happening when it is a Capricorn moon. Sure footing in high places so you can keep climbing. So you can keep seeing the light. And so when you can see the light, you can turn around and come back and help build the foundations on a lateral level, like Cancer. Okay, I'll leave it at that today. I love you so much. I hope that was helpful. I hope it helps you sit and bring in the own reflection instead of getting caught up in what comes up today, that it helps you move through that into your heart, opening up those cracks in order for you to accept it, who you really are, and start to do your disciplined divine service so that you meet your Magdalene purpose.